The first house I lived in was in Imperial Beach. A small, dark house with wide windows, a large backyard, and birds. Lots of birds. I have few memories of this time, encompassing the ages of birth to 4 years old. This is the house I learned to walk in, where I spoke my first words, the house where my dog was born, the house where my parents broke up. The part I remember the most is my bedroom. The room had a walk-in closet that bridged my room to my parents' room. One large window on the east wall, facing the backyard, offering views of the playground at my school. A small bed, complete with Teddy Ruxpin, shoved into the corner facing the closet. Ah, Teddy. Any 80s kid who knew about him wanted him. Except me. The Christmas after I turned 3, I asked for Grubby, Teddy's caterpillar sidekick, and was beyond disheartened when I tore that package open, only to see Teddy in all his fuzzy, vested glory staring back at me. My mom has regaled people with a horror story of Teddy for years. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I mailed her one today, she'd lose her shit. Possibly literally. Teddy would randomly turn on, but only when my mom was home alone. His eyes shifting from side to side as he called out from the back of the house. Mom going about her days only to hear the chilling bear voice happily reciting, "Story time and the magical bear." Except every now and then the voice would distort. Eventually, my mom was fed up with Teddy and took the batteries out. My parents had been so proud of themselves for acquiring Ruxpin. I did my best to love him, but he wasn't for me. She discovered what she thought was a broken switch. My dad repaired it. One day after school, she confronted me, asking me if I had replaced the batteries. "No, Mom." "Did you have your dad replace them?" "No, Mom." "Well, he started talking again." We opened the back, only to discover there were no batteries. "Are you sure it was Teddy you heard?" She just glares. Mom threw him over the fence into the alley. Ruxpin was officially banished, ideally back to his homeland, the island of Relonia. I once took a baby doll's bottle and filled it with water, gently nursing Teddy like my own baby bear. Naturally, adding water to an electric device can cause some issues. But I was 3, so what the hell did I know? Maybe my dad hadn't fixed that switch. She told me I broke it by using the water. I didn't really enjoy his stories or creepy eye movements anyway. 2 days later. "Jennifer?" "Yes, Mom?" "Did you get this?" she yells, thrusting the dusty bear in my face. "No, Mom." Turns out the dogs, who had free reign of the neighborhood, decided to retrieve him. Only to discard him in the middle of the living room floor. Again, Teddy was exiled, this time to the garbage can. I always kept to myself and rarely ventured out to play. I enjoyed the quiet and was awkward with other kids. I was an abnormally quiet child. There were a few kids in the neighborhood, but when they would come over, they'd bully me, beat me up, and steal my toys. It was always more entertaining for me to play alone. I remember having tea parties in my room. No stuffed animals, just myself and plenty of conversation. He was a portly guy with a gentle face and kind eyes. My imaginary friend and I would walk through the house, my arm stretched in the air, holding his hand and chatting away. I'd spend hours in my room, alone, playing and talking. Considering I was only 3 at the time, my parents all thought this was pretty normal. Then the night terrors started. I'd wake up screaming, paralyzed with fear. Something about that closet. It would take at least 15 minutes as I lay there, trying to muster the courage to sprint to my bedroom door. This was actually incredibly difficult because the bedroom door and the closet door were only separated by a mere 2 feet. The nights I made it out, I'd crawl into bed between my parents, squeezing my eyes so tightly they burned until sleep took over. I started asking to sleep with them all the time. Eventually, my dad got tired of this and tried to keep me out of their room. When it was evident that this wasn't an option for me, they started asking questions. I remember him, even now. A man's silhouette in my closet, his eyes glaring, the cowboy hat, and a cigarette. Tip glowing red, smoke slowly billowing into my bedroom. I could almost smell it. Ominously, he would creep toward me, the closet door opening less than inches at a time. Once I saw him, I couldn't unsee him. There was no going back to sleep once our eyes locked. Just before bed every night, I'd pile stuffed animals around my head, like the scene in E.T. where E.T. is hiding in Drew Barrymore's closet. I thought if I buried myself, I couldn't be found. My parents closed that door every night after tucking me in. When I'd wake up in the middle of the night, it would be slightly ajar, and there he would be, standing there, just staring at me. The cycle began with that closet door and his whitish yellow eyes boring into mine. It ended with my parents, bleary-eyed, trying to pry me from their bed. Everything I told them seemed beyond far-fetched. My father was incredibly skeptical and thought I was just making things up in order to sleep in their room. My mom, less disbelieving but still uncertain, would lay with me for hours, hoping it would soothe my fears and keep me in bed. It didn't. There was an afternoon where my aunt came to visit. We were playing in the front yard while a few of the kids in the neighborhood tooled around on their bikes, playing hide and seek. I was kneeling on the sidewalk, doodling with chalk. I looked up when I noticed a car approaching. A police car. As it approached my house, it started to slow down. Like a slow-motion scene in a movie, I stood up, wondering where they were going. As it passed my house, I noticed a man in the back seat. No, not a man. Him. That cowboy motherfucker who had been terrorizing me nightly. He was in the back of the cop car, watching me as they passed by, his eyes on mine. I freaked the fuck out. Tears streaming down my face, I bolted for the front door in hysterics. My aunt trailing behind me as I hid in my parents' room. She tried to calm me down, asking me what had happened. When I explained what I saw and why I was so scared, it was obvious she didn't believe me, even though she didn't say as much. I refused to go back outside for the rest of the afternoon. If he wasn't real, how was it even possible that I was seeing him in the daylight? Night terrors be damned, this was flowing into the rest of my day. It felt like there was no escaping it. No escaping him. The tea parties continued. I'd wander around the house or hide behind the curtains in full-blown conversation with what appeared to be myself. Every night I would purposely fall asleep in the living room or in my parents' bed. I'd do anything to not have to sleep in my own room. A few months had passed, but the nightmares persisted. It was a blustery and stormy afternoon, unusual for San Diego. My mom and I had settled into a round of board games and the floor is lava. The rain, almost torrential, rattling the windows as we laughed. As the storm raged on, lightning and thunder drew closer. We went into my room and kneeled on the bed, watching it all from the window. Crack! A bolt of lightning struck the shed in the backyard, causing the door to fly open. In the shadows, there he stood. I saw him. Those eyes. I know those eyes. Glaring, watching, looking straight at me. I started to whimper, and I went to climb off the bed when I realized my mom could see him too. She asked, Is that him? The man you keep seeing in the closet? Yeah, was all I could mutter. Crack! The second bolt, and the silhouette of another man appeared, standing just outside the shed. That's my friend! We have tea, and he's very nice. Looking from me to the men in the yard and back again, things were starting to click for my mom. I hadn't been having tea and conversation alone. I'd been having it with the newcomer in the backyard. We sat in silence, watching. The second man, my friend, walked toward the shed and slowly started to charge the cowboy. Crack! Another flash of lightning. The door to the shed violently jerking in the wind. With that last flash, they were both gone. It was the last time I saw the cowboy. I stopped having tea parties and wandering around the house with my arm in the air. We never told my dad about that rainy afternoon. My mom and I kept that our secret. Who would believe us? I stopped having bad dreams, and I didn't ask to sleep with my parents anymore. Later that year, my parents divorced. As we were packing the house, my mom got into conversations with the landlady. General rental conversation, appreciation for having us as tenants. And that's when she said it, pulling out a photograph to show us. He loved children. When my husband died in this house, he only wanted to know it'd be home for a good family. Well, I'm not sure how good we were, but at least I got to know who was protecting me in the day. I still wonder if that cowboy had anything to do with Teddy's being possessed. Maybe seeing is believing.